Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the Blockdaemon University podcast. And today I'm delighted to have Jonas on this session. Hi, Jonas.
Hello. Hi. Glad to be here.
Jonas, it's great to have you here. We could start off telling us a bit about your background and what exactly you do here at Blockdaemon.
All right. That's a long story. So I've been building software pretty much all my life. I started as a small kid, like I think a lot of people did. I wanted to write my own video games and all of that. So I started programming and building software at that age. And then as I grew a little bit older in school, I wrote little web applications for small businesses with friends, that kind of stuff. And then later as a professional, I worked as a consultant in the financial services industry, and I worked primarily on traditional payment transaction systems for banks. So things like SWIFT or SEPA, which kind of comes in handy from time to time when you talk about blockchain, and you also have an understanding of how the traditional world works. And back in, I think it was about 2014, I moved to Ireland. And I switched gears a little bit from pure software development to a little bit more infrastructure. And I worked a lot on cloud computing and helping to set up companies to run their own private cloud. So set up the infrastructure for them and then install the software and make it all work together. And I also got interested in blockchain, and I started writing little proof of concepts and small projects around blockchain, mostly Ethereum at the time, which was the big thing at the time. And I think this mix of infrastructure, cloud, blockchain, software development, that was the perfect fit for the early days of Blockdaemon, where really initially what we tried to do was to deploy blockchain nodes in the cloud and write the software to do that for us automatically. So I had all the basic building blocks of that knowledge, and it was just a matter of putting them all together. And so, back in 2017, I joined Blockdaemon as the first employee. And initially, I helped grow the blockchain team and the engineering team. And later on, then, once we had a basic product market fit and we overcame the initial hurdles, it became very clear to me very early on that the blockchain space is moving so fast. If we want to keep up, if we want to stay competitive, we need to keep innovating and we need to keep staying on top of it. We need to be ahead of the curve. So in order to address this, I started a small R&D team within the company about maybe a year or so ago now. And that's pretty much what I'm doing today, is leading this R&D team. And what we do is we write proof of concepts, we analyze new technology, we read white papers, we write our own research papers and publish them. And all of that with the overarching goal of staying on top of what's happening in the blockchain ecosystem and seeing what's out there and how we can apply it to the business and keep innovating and keep growing the company.
Fantastic. And I love that analogy of, the convergence of cloud and how it facilitated blockchain. And plus fantastic, insights in terms of blockchain is moving so quick. It's really hard to keep your hand on the pulse at all times. And I suppose, Jonas, what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, it's interesting because at the moment I have a newborn at home, and having a newborn working from home while in a fast growing startup, I don't really have a typical day, to be honest. It's I have a couple of rules. So I try to spend at least an hour a day on focused reading, things like reading white paper or just reading code, which really needs focused time. So I'll try to reserve 1 hour. It doesn't always work, but most of the time it works. And then the rest of the day is pretty much a mix of emails, Slack, meetings. I find myself talking a lot to different people these days, which probably isn't my strong suit. I'm better on the technical parts, on the engineering parts. But that's how we grow, and that's stepping out of that comfort zone from time to time. I think it really helps growing as a person and as a professional.
Fantastic. And you're in quite a niche area in terms of research. How do you keep you and your teams, how do you keep your finger on the pulse of what's going out there? You mentioned academic papers. Are there any other avenues?
So academic papers is definitely a big one. And we try to regularly meet and review academic papers or other white papers. So that's a big one. But then also the blockchain space is very unique in that it's very much driven by open source and public communities. So participating in those communities, being part of the chat rooms, I think that's very important as well. So having a pulse on the community while also looking at the academic research, I think that together is the best way of staying on top of everything.
Fantastic. And that really aligns with our two pillars of social and community learning that we have here in BDU. So that's fantastic to hear. And in terms of one thing that you'd wish you'd known at the start of your career that you would have helped you along now, what would you have pinpointed there, Jonas?
Oh, there's plenty of things I did wrong early on. But I think so in particular in IT and software engineering, there is a tendency to jump to the new shiny new thing rather than properly understand the fundamentals and the building blocks. And that's the same happened to me early in my career. I did a lot of Java development and I learned the newest Java frameworks, which are completely obsolete now. Nobody talks about them anymore. So I wish I had spent a little bit more time on the fundamentals. And I find if I have a good grasp of the fundamentals, it makes it so much easier to also understand new concepts. Like, for example, if we look at blockchain, in order to properly understand blockchain, you need to understand basic networking, basic cryptography, different data structures, etc., etc. And if you have those basic building blocks, it makes it so much easier to understand how blockchain works. Yeah, I think that's what I would have liked to do, is spend a little bit more time on the more or less timeless concepts rather than chasing the next new shiny framework.
Fantastic. And, for me, one of the most exciting spheres of blockchain at the moment is staking and, the developments and the various permutations that you as a customer or enterprise organization can use to stake. Are there any fields that you have pinpointed as really interesting in the blockchain world at the moment, Jonas?
I mean, there is so many great developments happening at the moment. But again, similar to the last question, I always go back to the fundamentals. This is the big learning for me, go back to the fundamentals. And in blockchain specifically, I'm most excited about the scalability issues getting addressed at the moment, as well as the interoperability maturing. I believe like those two things, they are holding back blockchain at the moment, and they are actively being worked on and actively being fixed. So I'm really excited about that. And I think that once those basic fundamental problems are solved, that will open so many doors for new developments. So yeah, that's what I'm excited about.
Fantastic. And could you outline what you think is the most important skill that allows you to perform your job at the highest capability, and outline why that skill is important, particularly in the blockchain world, which is constantly evolving at a fast pace?
Yeah. I would say, I would probably say that I'm not afraid to ask stupid questions. And that might sound a little bit silly, but having this kind of beginner's mindset when you look at new problems, look at new things, I find that really helps me. And it's interesting when you talk to a group of people and you start asking these seemingly stupid questions, they often uncover like a mountain of complexity that nobody really knew was there, because everybody just assumed that everybody else understood what they are talking about. So yeah, I think that's really it. I'm just not embarrassed by asking stupid questions.
No, fantastic. And in terms of what gives you positivity and enthusiasm at work during the week, Jonas?
Yeah, for me, I always liked building things. I think there's something about creating something that wasn't there before, and then looking back, like that just gives me a great sense of achievement. And that's not just in software, that's also if I do DIY around the house, or if I build Legos with my kids, like having something that wasn't there before and knowing that I made that, or I was part of a team making that, that's just a great feeling. And yeah, I love doing that. And if I can do it with a great group of people, that's even better. Then we have lots of fun while we are doing it.
Brilliant. And are there any exciting developments that you'd like the listeners to be aware of that are coming down the track?
So again, I have to repeat my answer from the previous questions, which is scalability issues getting solved and interoperability maturing and becoming more and more solid. I think these two things are enablers for lots of other developments which will happen in the next couple of years.
Fantastic. And for those, new to the blockchain world, could you focus on the issues regarding scalability or interoperability? Why are they fundamental to blockchain?
Mm-hmm. So lots of blockchains at the moment are just very, very slow if we compare them to traditional computer systems. If we look at transaction speed in a typical blockchain, we are talking multiple seconds. Even the fastest ones out there have a couple of seconds transaction speed. If we look at the same thing in a traditional computer system, like in a traditional database, for example, we are typically talking milliseconds. So there is a huge, huge difference. And that can hold back blockchain, just because from an end user perspective, if I can't send as many transactions, if the transactions don't get me a result fast enough, that can have severe implications on the usability of blockchain and also on the different use cases of blockchain. So, for example, micropayments are quite difficult to do if you can't send lots of transactions very fast. And I think that's an area where blockchain could really shine, is lots of small payments. And that can have an influence on the way really the internet and our society works. At the moment, a lot of the internet is built on this principle that websites make money by advertising. If we can change that around by saying every time I visit a website, I pay a percentage, like a small fraction of a cent to the creator of that website, I think that would really change the whole thing around a lot. Yeah.
Fantastic overview. And my final question is, what advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career similar to yours, Jonas?
I would say just get started, really. Especially in the blockchain space, everything is out there and developed publicly in the open. So I would say just start play around with the technology, read the white papers, participate in the communities, and contribute to open source projects. It's all out there, so you can just go and do it like today, and yeah, just participate and get your hands dirty and write some code. And once you've done that for a while, please apply for a job at Blockdaemon. I want to hear from you.
Thanks a million for giving up your time, Jonas, today. Some fantastic insights throughout this podcast. And if people want to find more about you and your team, they can refer to the hyperlinks below this video. Thanks again, Jonas, for giving up your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Thank you.